episode 24 of the Bullpen. And I guess first things first, Dane Poe is on. It's his first week hopping on the podcast. For those parents and players down in Southern Illinois and kind of the Central Illinois area too, you've probably seen Dane a little bit at some of your games. I think you're on, week 3 of heading down to Southern Illinois, and so he's been down at some games, so crushing it. So appreciate Dane hopping on. This will be his first podcast, and I'm sure he'll be on many more with just talking through some of these games that he goes and sees this spring. But Dane, yeah, thanks for hopping on, man.
For having me on.
Yeah. So Dane is based out of the Peoria area too, and he's kind of getting into some Central Illinois games, but also Southern Illinois. So how you guys doing? First things first. I mean, Easter weekend, you guys have a good weekend and everything?
Yeah, mine was good, Gav. I actually got to go back home to Ohio and see my family out there, so that was big time for me. And then also just seems like the weather's finally turning up here. It's got all of us fired up.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Good Easter. I get to spend some family time, but the weather's really the one thing that's got me fired up the most right now. Just looking at some forecasts, and they're actually positive. So should be a lot of good baseball coming.
Me and the cousins actually, we broke out the gloves and had a good 4-way Easter catch. My one cousin actually brought his glove from Boston. He flew it on the plane as his carry-on because he was that dedicated to it. But definitely, it was nice enough to play catch on Easter. So, I mean, yeah, I've been looking at the weather as well. And, I mean, it's been brutal so far, but I think brighter days ahead.
All I can think about is how's your arm holding up?
Oh, the UCL was on fire. The UCL was on fire. And
Yeah.
couldn't scratch my back for the day or two, but we're all right now.
Well, I got one last thing because we won't speak again until next week. My Bears guys on this pod, what are they doing Thursday night? Number 10 overall. What are our predictions?
Hopefully
Whatever
Ashton Genty, but we'll
whatever
see.
Ben wants, man. I'm all
Maybe
in
tight
on
end
whatever that
wants.
dude wants.
Yeah, I have no
Yeah.
idea. I'm excited for it. That's for sure. And I think they put themselves in a position to where they can draft, best player available or whatever they're really wanting for Ben's offense or for that defense. So I think, if anything, this is it's exciting because I think there's all options open. They don't need to get a quarterback, or they better not have to. And at least that's how I'm feeling. I don't want to speak for Peter and Gavin, but I know for myself, the last couple of years, the best part of being a Bears fan is the off season. So it's kind of pathetic, but it is the case, and we'll see. But I know, Dane, you mentioned a tight end. I think Ashton Genty's getting talked about. Who knows if he'll make it that far down the list, but I don't know enough about the other prospects to really talk about it. Although I did see your boy Ty Warren, Tyler, and I liked him in the playoffs.
I'd have his jersey so quick it wouldn't even be funny.
Yeah, but it should be a good night. We'll see.
Well, the last
interesting
thing I
that
want to
they're
add
doing
on
it at Green Bay too. But
I saw some Packers fans this past weekend up in Wisconsin, and they're a little nervous. They're a little worried about this Bears team, so that just makes me happy because it's been a long time since any Packers fan I know has been potentially worried about a Bears team. So they were trying to act pretty calm and cool about it, but I think you could tell on the outside they're a little worried.
shouldn't just be worried about the Bears. That division is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
With Kevin O'Connell up there in Minnesota, I know they're trying to figure out the quarterback situation, but if it's J.J. McCarthy, who's a Nazareth alum here in Illinois, I don't know. We'll see. I know he had a good preseason last year, and that doesn't really mean anything, but
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Detroit, them losing Ben Johnson. How much of a factor was he? Was he
Yeah.
everything? Was he just a piece of it? Are they going to keep rolling? It's a fun division right now.
Yeah. Well, so it was a good Easter weekend, but at the same time, it was a bad weekend for me looking at the Illinois State Bradley game. They got swept by the Braves, and Dane is actually a Bradley alum. He worked with the team, so I'm sure he was pretty fired up about that, but pretty hurt by that sweep by the Braves. But honestly, Dane, I'm going to give some love to some of those Bradley guys from Illinois. Timmy O'Brien went 2 for 5 with a double, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and a walk. And then Bobby Atkinson went 4 for 5 with 2 doubles, an RBI, a run, and 2 walks in their game two on Saturday. And then in game one on Saturday, Timmy O'Brien went 1 for 4 with a homer, 3 RBIs, a run. And then Jack Solano threw 5 innings, struck out 4, walked 2, allowed 1 run, and 4 hits. So some good stuff there from the guys, the Bradley guys. And then on top of that, SIU won their series over Belmont. And then Southern Illinois is now third in the Missouri Valley after this weekend. So big weekend for them. But yeah, just kind of moving down. Looking at some of the league leaders in the Missouri Valley, Dan Pasella is leading the Missouri Valley in batting average. He's second in home runs, third in RBIs, third in OBP, first in slugging, and first in OPS. But Drew, I saw you were unmuted. Do you have anything you wanted to add on any of that before I keep going?
I mean, just looking at all these names you listed off, and first off, like, kudos to Bradley. Getting a sweep in any conference in Division I baseball is extremely hard to do. So they clearly played some good baseball that weekend. But no, like Jack Stolano, like he's an Illinois grad, like he's Coal City back in 2021. Timmy O'Brien, I was looking him up because if it's the same Tim O'Brien that I'm thinking of, which is hard now for me looking him up here on the spot. Yeah, he's from Maine South. Yeah, he's from Maine South, and Coach Lorenz over there at Maine South would rave about his bat. And I feel like we always had him maybe underranked or ranked lower than where he should have been. And to see what he's doing at the next level, like Coach Lorenz, he knows his guys over there at Maine South clearly. Because he was like, this is one of the best hitters that's ever gone through Maine South. I think Timmy O'Brien actually set some records for Maine South. And did I see it right that you said he's got, you may be getting to this as your next point, but he's leading the Missouri Valley in home runs. That is impressive. 14 home runs. And no, I just love that every guy on this list is from Illinois. They're making waves here in the Missouri Valley, and I can keep letting you go.
Yeah, and I think I said Timmy O'Brien was from Prairie Ridge, but it's Park Ridge is the town that he's from. And then, yeah, Maine South is the high school. But Grant Mastros, he is 5th in the Missouri Valley in stolen bases. He's an Illinois State player. And then Vitus, moving over to the Big Ten, Vitus Valencias, he is 5th in the Big Ten in batting average and 4th in RBIs. And then Colin Jennings is 19th in the Big Ten in batting average, 20th in OBP, 4th in slugging, and then what do I got here? It looks like I have a typo, but his OPS right now is 1.185.
Well, and while you're looking that up, Gab, or like just seeing if you're, correct on those stats, like what a cool story Colin Jennings is. He was a late commit to Illinois. Didn't play a whole lot his first year. I believe he's a sophomore there now. I think we've mentioned him on this podcast in the past, but like even at the start of this year, he had to earn his way into that lineup, and he has been obviously raking to hit that. I think he's got close to like 7 or 9 home runs in limited at bats compared to some of the other guys on that roster. Because I was just kind of peeking at some stats the other day, checking out UIC, Northwestern, EIU, Illinois State, Illinois, kind of just doing the rounds here, and that was something that stood out to me. But awesome story there with Colin Jennings, Marist High School grad, and great to see.
Yeah, so he was 5th in the Big Ten in OPS. But then, with Ben Plumlee, Illinois pitcher, he is 18th in the Big Ten with 40 strikeouts. And then looking at the Ohio Valley Conference, SIUE is now 2nd with a 10-5 record, and then Eastern Illinois is 3rd with a 9-5 conference record. So good stuff there from our Illinois guys and our Illinois teams. But Drew, I see you got some NAI news if you want to throw that nugget in there.
Yeah, no, and I had to look up Colin Jennings just to see because I thought it was double-digit home runs or close to. He's got 9 home runs, and he's got 9 home runs and 94 at-bats. You look up and down their list, a lot of their guys with the most at-bats have over 120. There's 2 guys with over 140. So just speaking to, like, just how impressive those power numbers are for Colin Jennings. Yeah, I mean, I know you guys got in there on some D2 stuff last week and D3 stuff, and I felt left out. So I had to give my NAIA guys some love. I graduated from Indiana Southeast. They currently right now are 28-12, and they're ranked number 10 when it comes to NAIA baseball. So definitely a proud alum over here. And anytime I can shout out the Grenadiers, I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, let's do it. But moving over to high school stuff now. Big nugget for Coach Hawkins at Normal West. He earned his 600th career win in their 8-0 win over Champaign Central last week. I actually saw a picture on, I think it was Saturday or maybe it was yesterday. I can't remember exactly. They painted 600 behind home plate for him on the field, which is really cool. So congrats to Coach Hawkins on that. I know we mentioned some coaches last week that had some big career wins like that as well.
Yeah, and getting into it. I think there's been a couple milestones floating around. I saw somebody just got to 500 wins as well. That was tweeted out. If I can find it, I'll make a mention of it here before the podcast is over. But new number one, looking at the Power 25 high school teams, what's happened in the past week. Man, Lincoln Way West had put a pretty big stamp on being number one. They've had some impressive wins, but they had a tough week. They lost 3 games, against some really good teams. But with that, it created some juggling especially towards the top of this Power 25. And Brother Rice is the new number one. They're 15-1 on the year. They are absolutely raking as a team up and down the lineup with older guys, younger guys, kind of everybody's contributing. Last week they went 4-0. They took down Maine South 10-2. They knocked off Lockport 5-4 in a tough game, and then they took 2 games from DePaul College Prep in conference. So that propelled them over Libertyville. Libertyville's sitting at number 2, and they took their first loss of the year, 16-1, I believe, going into the new week, but still really, really high on Libertyville. And then just kind of looking down the list at like other noteworthy teams. I don't think we're going to go through all 25, but just some guys that have made some jumps and stuff. Minooka, huge week for them. They jumped 3 spots to number 4. They're 15-2. They went 3-1 on the week, but they beat the then number 1 Lincoln Way West 7-0. And Zane Caves was an absolute stud on the mound for them that game. He's a Michigan State commit, 2026 left-hander. I've long talked about him on this podcast. He's a 3-sport athlete. You give him some time coming off the basketball season, and it just seems like it gets better and better and better. So Minooka's got themselves plenty of talent this year, but kind of the arrival or the whatever you want to say about Zane Caves, just kind of making that next step. And he's almost, they've already got Zillis, who's an ace, in himself. But if Caves can kind of turn into that pseudo ace, that secondary ace, they are going to be tough to beat come playoff time. I'm going to look too at just who else they beat that week. They knocked off Plainfield East and Plainfield South in rather convincing fashion. So they are definitely trending the right direction. And then just moving down some other ones that I, had nuggets on. Triad, they jumped 3 spots to number 5, and they're 14-1 overall. They went 3-0 on the week, and I think like almost all of our staff has now seen them play. Like I know Dane has had a couple close recent looks at them. I've seen them. Defaball saw them early in the year. They are really, really good. I mean, I think right now they're kind of that team to beat in Southern Illinois, whether it's 3A, 4A. Like, you got some really good teams down there with Father McGivney, with Edwardsville. O'Fallon is playing good baseball. Belleville East is playing good. Alton is tough. But, like, Triad, to me, they've got the arms, and their lineup is as good as it gets. I think Edwardsville is going to be right there. They went over to the NHSI and played 4 or 5 of the best teams in the country, and they took their lumps. I did not expect that. I thought they would definitely get a win or 2. We are not, out on them by any means, but man, you look at on paper who's done what. Like Triad has been ultra impressive. They've got Hayden Bernruder, who's been just raking at the plate. Hayden Bugger, Landon Loomis, but man, Keegan Sipe. I know, Dane, you and I were talking about him last night. Like, Keegan Sipe has just been going off for being a sophomore in that lineup. Big physical left-handed hitter, and he's been getting to his power. And then one other team that I had to mention here was Lincoln Way East, because they took probably the biggest jump out of anybody in, honestly, like kind of recent memory. They jumped 13 spots. They were at number 20, and they went up to number 7. And just kind of breaking down what they did and why they jumped so much. They went 4-0 on the week. So they had a perfect week. They are now 13-2 on the year. They also have a left-handed arm that throws 101.8 with one of the best sliders in the class. They've got Jack Tamer, who's an unsigned senior, whose velo has shot up. They've got Cooper Johnson coming up. They've got a number of arms. Like, they just are way more complete than I think we realized coming into the year, and they're playing really good baseball. But they split with Lincoln Way West in a great series, a great 2-game series. They beat them 8-7. They also knocked off Montini Catholic 5-3. They took down Bradley Bourbonnais 10-3. And then another huge win for them on that perfect week was beating number 18 Lamont 7-4. And that game actually went like 14 innings. So just a hard-fought battle there with Lamont. And yeah, Lincoln Way East, I think from the eye test, we've now seen them multiple times. Looking at what they've done on paper, the teams they've beat, like they all day, I think, deserve to be in that top 10 at that number 7 slot. And honestly, I think there could be an argument that they could be even higher. So those were some teams that I had just right off the rip here in the top 10 that were making some moves. And I know you guys have some as well.
Yeah. Just you mentioned Jack Bauer, and I know we talk about him a lot, but when I was over at the East Peoria Canton game, which I'll get into later, you just hear like rumblings. Hey, Jack Bauer he throws 102, and Connor Essenberg hit a home run off a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, and all this and that, and like everywhere I've gone since this, it's just like that's like the hottest thing in high school baseball, I think, right now, which is just crazy to think about. But yeah, go ahead, Ty or Drew, whatever.
It's even reached non-baseball people, which I think is like the coolest thing. Like at Easter, like I had my uncle, like, who's this kid at Lincoln Way East that throws 100? I'm like, well, it's actually like 102. So it's just really cool how it has they say like gone viral or whatever. But kudos to Jack Bauer. Really, really awesome to see. Something I've never seen in my time doing this, left-hander throwing over 100 miles an hour in high school. But yeah, what do you got, Tyler?
It was a topic of conversation back in Ohio on Easter as well. My uncle and my cousins were asking about it, so he's certainly made his mark nationally. Because it's even reaching over there in Ohio. So
well, hopefully your cousin's the next one to kind of be talked about and doing it. Because I know he's a talented 2027 that was at the Super Sophomore Games last year for Ohio. What's the name again?
It's Noah Milburn.
Yeah, let's give Noah a shout out for any schools that happen to maybe, come across this podcast. Keep tabs on Noah Milburn. Despite coming from the Defaball family, like that's really the only knock I have on the guy. I think he's a stud. So no, I'm just kidding. It's a huge positive. He's a Defaball. But go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah. I'll get in here. Yeah, I'll get in here.
All right.
So Southern Illinois School, Father McGivney jumps up 2 spots at number 12. They are now 16-2. They went 2-0 on the week. They're a 1A program, and they are seemingly just the best 1A team in the state. They have a really good lineup. I know, Dane, you've seen them, but just looking at the videos from afar, like the guys in that lineup just look like they can really mash. And I mean, we've seen a lot of their guys in the past at events, games, things like that. So they're 6-0 in conference. They're outscoring teams 178-33, and they are currently on a 14-game win streak. So again, another one of those Southern Illinois programs that's probably one of the best in that area, and obviously the state as well, now sitting at number 12. But moving over to Normal Community, they jump up 3 spots to number 13. They had a 14-3 week, or 14-3 on the year. They went 3-0 on the week, and they gave up 1 run in 3 games. So far, they're undefeated in conference, and they're outscoring teams 134-42, and they are on a 13-game win streak. So a team that's really hot here in Central Illinois, and I mean, one team that we've been high on for pretty much the entire year. I know had some kind of struggles early on, but it looks like they're kind of cruising now with some once they get into conference play. But yeah, Normal Community at number 13 now.
Yeah, and then St. Lawrence jumping 3 spots up to number 14. They're on a 9-game win streak right now, and when I saw them was the start of this streak they've been on. They got a big win over Homewood Flossmoor last week, who actually knocked off number 1 Lincoln Way West last week, so that's a good win. And then they also swept St. Ignatius in conference play. So the Vikings are starting to get hot. That's a really good roster over there. So I'm sure we're not done talking about them.
Well, and another team that stays like red hot, that just continues to climb up our board is Fremd. They're 10-0-1. They went 2-0 this week. They took 2 games from Hoffman Estates in very convincing fashion. Like, they just keep doing it. And they're up 4. They're up to 15, and they're a team that I think is just a tough team to beat. So they're going to probably play a lot of close games, and I know they've got some tough games coming up looking at their schedule. But one thing I wanted to mention too, like getting into this Power 25 and things that happened this week in the update is, we've got 2 teams in our top 10 in Edwardsville and Providence Catholic that on paper don't have the best records. And I think that's what makes, deciding and figuring out how to do these rankings really, really tough. Because we've got teams that we've left off here that are 16-1, 12-1, 15-2 in a St. Joe Ogden that they're very, very good. So like, how do we do it? How do we look at it, man? Like, first off, it's hard. I think with Edwardsville, they're at number 9. They beat McCracken County this past week to go 1-0 on the week to push their record to 8-6 on the year. But it's like, you look at a record like 8-6, and you could think, what the heck are they doing, in the top 10? But we mentioned they go up to the NHSI. They play the toughest teams in the country. That really, is putting a tough look on their losses, because if they're any other team in the state, they don't have those 4 losses from those teams. And they're probably sitting, somewhere at like 14-2, or 12-2, something like that. So we are not out on Edwardsville. Like, I don't know. I don't want to speak for everybody, but before the season, looking at them on paper, absolutely loaded. They still are. And then we got to look at them at the Kickoff Classic. And the eye test to me was just as impressive. And I think Providence Catholic is a little bit on the same lines here. I think they're trying to figure some things out with their pitching. But they're 10-5, and they're at number 10 for us. They dropped 4 spots. They went 3-2 on the week. But they're another team where it's like, I am nowhere near ready to jump off the, bandwagon on them. I think just Coach Smith and Coach Funkhauser, they know what's most important. That's getting their team ready for playoff time. They're not worried about exactly how many wins and losses they have. So Providence Catholic 10-5, sitting in our top 10, maybe doesn't look as good as some of the other records, but they've also played some of the best teams in the state and then outside of the state. Like, they had Ballard, Kentucky come up and play them. Couple other tough games here as I'm looking at. They went down and played St. Xavier and Trinity down in Louisville. So sorry to kind of steal the thunder there on teams in the Power 25. I just thought that was kind of important to talk about, Gavin and others. Like, strength of schedule is a huge, huge part of this. And who we, really think from an eye test are the best teams in the state as well.
Well, Drew, I mean, if there's 2 teams in the entire state where you can just throw the record out the window, especially come playoff time, it would quite literally be those 2. So, I mean, because we're also trying to rank, like, we want our rankings to reflect, like, what it's going to be at the end of the year, too, right? You better believe they're going to turn it on come playoff time.
And I think if you look at the past, 9 years maybe, I'm trying to think back, maybe the last 10 years, there's probably 6 or 7 of those state titles are either Providence or Edwardsville. So I think they've also earned that right, just via history and what they've done. So I think you're 100% right there, Pete. Like, just know they're going to be one of the toughest teams to knock out come playoff time, and I'm sure both of those records are going to just continue to get better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, and then 2 more risers in this week's Power 25. Next is Lamont, jumping 2 spots, 3-1 week. I think the biggest thing with Lamont was early on, like the past few updates we've done, they just haven't had a ton of games under their belt. So they're now finally starting to play some games. Obviously, we've touched on the weather. That's a big part of it here in Illinois. So they're 10-3-1. They had a 3-1 week. Honestly, I kind of feel like a factor in them rising was just that game with Lincoln Way East. Like, someone else can hop in here if I'm wrong, but took essentially 2 games for Lincoln Way East to knock off Lamont, right? Going 14 innings. So to us, that was really impressive that they were able to hang for 14 innings. That had to be an awesome game. Drew, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, well, just to add some color to that, we think very highly of Lincoln Way East with them jumping, from 20 to number 7. So, Lamont losing that game and in the fashion that they did, it doesn't hurt them as much as maybe a different loss would have. But then you look at their wins, and they outscored opponents. If my math is correct here, they had 11, 24, and 14. I'm counting 49 runs scored, and they only gave up 2 in their other 3 wins. So, really, really dominant week outside of that game against Lincoln Way East.
No, that's a good shout because they also beat an Evergreen Park team who we'll touch on here in the next segment that's been playing well too. So moving down, Oswego jumping 5 spots up to number 17. Listen, Oswego's just been doing it. They've been winning at an unreal clip, right? They're 15-1, 4-0 week. I saw them down at the Kickoff Classic. Like, there's a lot to like in that lineup. Just a very senior-heavy team, and they scored 44 runs in 4 games last week. So they're finding ways to win. The offense is obviously helping carry the load, but man, if you're going to score 44 runs every week, I think you're in good shape. So that's what I got on Oswego. Pete, I'll throw it back over to you.
Sure. We got Downers Grove North here. They're up 3 spots to number 20, and I actually got to look at them over the weekend for a Crosstown Classic with DGS, but they're 15-1 on the week, or on the season, I'm sorry, and they went 4-0 on the week. And they actually scored 66 runs in four games. Tyler, I don't mean to one-up you there, but I mean, I got to look at them. They passed the eye test. It's a totally different team, right? Totally different identity to what they've had in the past with the Wolkows and the Janikis and the Warwicks. All those guys are through the doors and gone. Now it's a bunch of other guys now that they've had some time on varsity, but there's also new faces stepping up and some new young arms stepping up as well that I'll get to later. But so yeah, really liked my look at them. And then moving down, Andrew is up 3 spots as well. They're up to number 21 now. They're 14-2. They had a 3-0 week, good bounce back week to get back on track. And then York, they're entering the Power 25 now. I actually got to look at them yesterday. We're recording on Tuesday. They're at number 22 now. They're 12-1, 13-1 actually, 12-1 at the time we put this in. 2-0 on the week, and all they do is win. I mean, they've made it to state the past 2 years. Like, we didn't give them enough respect. I'll just say it. Like, they lose Ryan Sloan, who was a big factor into why they made it to state, right? He's gone. So now it's like, all right, well, who do they have? And, I mean, I saw them. It's like all seniors, and they're all very solid players. And so they are one of those teams where, they're not going to make a lot of mistakes, and they pass the eye test as well. So really happy to see them yesterday.
Yeah, and then the last team we want to touch on here in the Power 25, Prairie Ridge entering the Power 25, another Fox Valley team. Listen, the Fox Valley at times kind of cannibalizes itself, I feel like. They're all going to, it's just a very talented conference, and they're all going to beat up on each other throughout the spring. But, man, they had a big week last week. They're 14-3-1. They had a 3-0 week with including a convincing win over Hampshire, who was number 9 at the time. And they scored 30 runs in their 3 games last week. So their offense is finding ways to do it, and they're pitching the ball well, too, at the time. So this week, though, they got a big week. They get Huntley twice, they get Cary Grove, and then they also get Hampshire again. So we'll see. It's the Fox Valley Conference. You never know what's going to happen. But, Prairie Ridge off to a really great start this spring.
Yeah, and then kind of looking over at some of these bubble teams or teams that are off to a pretty good start here. Obviously, every team can't be in the Power 25, but there are still a ton of other teams out there having really good seasons. But just some names here in the Central Illinois area. I'm not going to list off every team. If you look at our Power 25 page at the bottom, we list off a bunch of these teams, but just a few to note: Dunlap's 13-4, Eureka's 16-1, Ottawa Marquette 14-1. We've talked about them quite a bit. Monticello's 14-3. Nashville is 14-0, kind of in that Southern Illinois region. Normal U High is 12-3. Putnam County's 14-2. Teutopolis 14-1. St. Bede's 13-2. St. Joe Ogden's 15-2. So just a bunch of teams in the Central Illinois and some Southern Illinois schools off to really good starts. But what else do you guys got?
Yeah, I'll hop in. Just some teams that were catching my eye in my neck of the woods. Coal City, 14-3. Evergreen Park, I touched on them a little bit earlier, but they're 14-4. just totally random regarding Evergreen Park, but like we see like pictures of like their stadium and their field set up there. It looks absolutely beautiful. So who knows? Maybe we'll get out to see them at some point this spring. It looks like a just absolutely fantastic spot to watch a game. Moving down Geneva, 12-4. They've got a couple 2027s that we have our eye on, and the T's, will be included in our 2027 rankings when we drop those. So they're playing well. Grays Lake Central, 12-3. Shout out to our guy, Coach Whalen over there, doing a great job. And then Palatine, 12-4. They've got a couple really good arms there as well, whether it be Toby Peterson, who's going to Kentucky, or Peter Mulhern, who's going to Wisconsin Parkside. So those were just some teams catching my eye.
Yeah, a few more, and then we can move on. Hersey, they're 12-2-1. Highland Park, 11-3-1, and then Lyons Township, like I mentioned earlier, they're 10-2. Mundelein, 12-3-2, a team that's always good. Plainfield Central, off to a good start at 13-3. Rolling Meadows, 14-3. And then rounding it out, we got Warren Township at 12-3, and then West Aurora at 12-1.
Yeah, so good stuff there. And kind of moving on to our scores and highlights from last week, kind of getting this information from our daily roundup. We're going to go about it a little bit differently this week. We're not going to separate it by day, but we're just going to kind of make mention of some highlights that we saw throughout the week that looked like pretty good stand-up performances. But yeah, Drew, I'll turn it over to you. I mean, I know you got a couple games in here and some things you liked. So what do you got?
Yeah, I like this, Gavin. Just a couple things that really stood out to me, kind of sitting back, seeing Daily Roundup, or just high school tweets that come through, like Maine South. I mentioned Coach Lorenz earlier with Timmy O'Brien now doing his thing at Bradley, but they've got a catcher, 2026, uncommitted, Luka Stojakovic. And I see a tweet where it was from April 19th. He goes 3 for 3. And with going 3 for 3, that made it 8 straight hits in a row for him. So in his last 8 at-bats, he had 8 hits in a row. That's just, first off, it's kind of remarkable that like you wouldn't mix in a walk, or get hit by a pitch or something. For him to have 8 hits in a row, I thought that was extremely noteworthy. Maine South did tweet that out, which I love to see, like these high school programs that are kind of highlighting good performances from their players, getting that out. And then Zane Caves, we mentioned him earlier from Manuka, that huge win that they had over Lincoln Way West, where he dominated a really, really good lineup. He went a CG one-hitter, shutout, struck out 9. From Manuka, gives them just another high-quality arm for them. But then one of my biggest kind of notes from last week was Nazareth finally lost a game. And I say this, and I'm taking this from a tweet I saw that they put out there, but entering the week, Nazareth Baseball had a 60-1 record in their last 61 games. Their home winning streak ended at 39 games, which covered from May of 2023 until April of 2025. It's the second longest home winning streak in the history of the state for baseball. So obviously, that's a pretty big statement. That's a huge winning streak they had going, and it ended. So I'm curious, like sitting there seeing this tweet, it's like, okay, how did it end? Well, it ended, Marist beat them, and freshman Colin Lawler had the start for Marist. So a freshman left-hander, Colin Lawler, like remember the name, he's a guy we're going to follow. He's a guy we saw last year and was in the mix for like junior future games and stuff like that. But for a freshman to knock them off and that winning streak, I just thought was really, really cool and just speaks to how good this freshman Colin Lawler is. So those were just a couple nuggets I had to lead off here, Gavin.
Yeah, so I'll kind of get in here and throw out a few. Personally, for me, I was trying to look at the 1A and 2A scores a lot when I mentioned these, because I know we always kind of get some stuff like good stats coming through with those 1A, 2A schools, and that's obviously, I went to a 1A school, so love those nuggets. But yeah, Cade Millville at Altamont, he's a 2026. He threw 7 innings, struck out 16, walked none, allowed 2 hits and no runs in their 8-0 win over Neoga last week. Alec Novotny, a name we talk about a lot, threw 5 innings, struck out 10, allowed 1 hit in Ottawa Marquette's win over Roanoke Benson. And then Drew, we got a Danville area JUCO commit here, Alan Spencer from St. Bede. He threw 5.1 innings, struck out 10, allowed 1 run in their 8-1 win over Dwight. Trying to see what else we got here. Let's go Harvest Christian in their 9-6 win over Westminster Christian. Kyle Zeeble went 2 for 3 with a homer, an RBI, a double, 2 runs, and a walk. And then Ben Mitchell, who's going to Lakeland, went 3 for 4 with 2 homers, a double, 4 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. And then looking at St. Joe Ogden, they extended their winning streak to 9 games with their 16-4 win over Normal U-High. Parker Fitch struck out 11 over 5 innings pitched. He earned the win. And then Coy Taylor had 6 RBIs in the game with 2 doubles. So a lot of good stuff in this Central Illinois region. But yeah, Ty, if you got anything, feel free, or Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll hop in next here. Just a few things that caught my eye from last week. I think the first one for me is Carmel Catholic splitting with Naz. I think Carmel Catholic, from where we sit, is a very intriguing team for us, especially prospect-wise, whether it be Emerson Larson, who's a 2026 for them, or even Josh Wamette, who is a very talented freshman for Carmel Catholic. So them splitting with Naz on Saturday is very notable to me. Moving down, Cary Grove walked off number 4 McHenry last Thursday. Evan, and I'm going to butcher this last name, Evan, so I apologize, but Evan Frangiamore had the walk-off single. So thing I wanted to touch on here is, don't forget about Cary Grove up in the Fox Valley Conference. They're sitting at 3rd right now in conference, a game back from McHenry, who's leading the conference at the time of this podcast. So feels like Cary Grove's always good. I think last year they had a, kind of surprise run for us into the playoffs. So don't forget about them. They've got an ace like Charlie Tazzy. They had Ethan Dorches last year. So they always have talent up there. Next, Alton is 12-5. They actually split with number 12 O'Fallon, who I feel like going into last week, O'Fallon was just rolling and beating a ton of really good teams. So shout out to Alton. They've got 2 really talented arms that, I know we're all very high on, whether it's Logan Hickman or Anderson Kaufman. So just want to shout out Alton there. And Dane, feel free to hop in. I know you've seen them. So if you have any more nuggets about Alton, but you're good if you don't want to say anything too.
Yeah, no, I think Alton is they've had a couple tough years in a row, and it's good to see them kind of trending in the right direction. They've got some young guys with Anderson Kaufman. They've got a talented 26 in Logan Hickman. They've got a couple seniors that are doing it, a couple unsigned seniors as well. So any colleges out there still looking for guys, maybe peek in on them. Couple other nuggets that I just kind of had as I'm perusing, Jaden Fauski's a left-handed bat in the senior class. He's our number 2 overall prospect. He's a top 15 national prospect. I think he's a potential, first round, first day type of draft. He's starting to heat up. I saw on April 19th, he went 2 for 2 with 2 bombs, 3 walks, 3 RBIs. Just a name to kind of keep in mind here as the season gets towards playoff time. Jaden Fauski's as talented as they come in the state. And then one other one I had was St. Charles North gave Libertyville their first loss of the season last week, which I just thought was noteworthy in general. St. Charles North has done that a couple times this year, beating some really good teams. We've talked on Coach Genke and how good of a program they have year in, year out over there. But junior left-handed pitcher Emerson Miller was kind of the guy from that game, just from looking at it, went 5 1/3 innings out of the bullpen to earn the win, and he gave up 3 hits and struck out 2. So huge win there for St. Charles North. Libertyville has just been a team that's been dominating. So yeah, giving them their first loss, and I think those were the nuggets that I saw on my end, Gavin.
I wanted to hop in real quick.
Ahead.
Sorry, Gav. With St. Charles North and Emerson Miller, that's the exact blueprint of how they beat Pravi when I saw them earlier in the year. Emerson Miller came out of the bullpen. It was just a different look, I think, for the opposing lineup. And credit to him, man. He's a nice little southpaw who just throws strikes and gets outs. Gets a ton of weak contact. So just want to throw that in there. It's interesting how that win unfolded because it was very similar to earlier in the spring.
2 really good teams he's beaten there too.
So moving over to our player and pitcher of the week, and then our diamond notes. Just again, I'm going to reiterate that every Tuesday we post our player of the week and pitcher of the week, and then on every Wednesday we post our diamond notes. So just coaches, players, whoever, just be sure to submit. I guess coaches, be sure to submit when we email you on Sunday nights, I believe is when that comes out. Just keep checking your email and submit some of your players from the week prior for pitcher or player of the week. And even if you don't think they're pitcher or player of the week caliber, they will be thrown into our Diamond Notes, which comes out on Wednesday. But Hammett, you're our pitcher or player of the week story writer, so if you want to get in there, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Brother Rice did not make it easy on us this week. We were kind of deciding between Gavin Triesenberg and Brady Cunningham, but we ended up going with Brady. He went 7 for 13. He had 5 walks, 4 doubles, a triple, a home run, 6 RBIs, and 10 runs scored. And he also swiped 2 bags. And then he punched out 5 in 2 innings pitched. And Tyler, I know you were at that game. And he also left the yard, I believe, in front of you as well.
Yes,
so
he
I don't know
did.
if you had anything to add there, but
No, impressive week. I mean, he continues to do it on both sides of the ball, and I honestly feel like it's probably not the first and won't be the last time we think about Brady Cunningham for player of the week. It just seems like he has a huge week every week.
totally. And then for the pitcher of the week, we had Brandon Shannon. From McHenry, he was lights out. He took down a ranked Hampshire, fired a no-hitter over his 6 innings of work. They combined for a no-hitter in the game. But he had 14 strikeouts with 53 of his 79 pitches being for strikes. So, I mean, the arm talent that he has and being in the zone is a very good combination, and he's kind of that ace over there.
Yeah, so moving over to Diamond Notes now. I don't think we're going to hit on every player that was mentioned within, but just kind of some notable performances. And if you want to have any more information on that, again, just be sure to check out our Diamond Notes story on the site. If you look at the IHSA tab at the top of our Illinois page, there will be a drop down that will take you right to the Diamond Notes, and you can see all of them. I think it goes back to 2022, maybe. I could be wrong on that, but definitely it goes back to 2023 and 2024, I believe. But anyway, so yeah, let's kind of get in here. If you guys want to kick it off, I'll let you guys go for it. Or
Sure, a game that I was at, Lucas Grant. He threw 6.2 innings, didn't allow any hits, walked 2 and struck out 17. He got pulled with 2 outs in the last inning, so just missed the complete game no-hitter, but that was super impressive for me.
And I'm sitting here, you're, talking about the player of the week, pitcher of the week, and we look at our Diamond Notes and like just how hard it is to select these winners. Yeah, you got Lucas Grant striking out 17 guys, not allowing a hit. I know Brandon Shannon did it against a really good club to earn the player of the week. But then you got a guy, Owen Roberts. We just talked about Lucas Grant striking out 17, not allowing a hit. Owen Roberts also threw a no-hitter, struck out 11, walked 1, 54 pitches of 77 landed for strikes. And he's been just an absolute stud for Waubonsie the last 2 years. He's an Indiana State commit. He's a senior. And their coach sent over some more notes on him just to talk about how big of a stud he's been. He hasn't given up a hit in his last 12 innings. He has not given up a run on the year. He threw a no-hitter against Batavia on Thursday, striking out 11, walking just 1. He needed 77 pitches to complete the game, with 54 pitches being strikes. I just mentioned that. The Warriors won that game 3-0. But here we go. On the season, he's thrown 18 innings, and he's got 33 Ks and only 5 walks, and he's only given up 5 hits on the year. And he's yet to give up a run. And alongside that, he's also their leading hitter. He's hitting 433. So I know I'm a little long-winded on there, but Owen Roberts, just a flat-out performer, all-stater for us last year, obviously continues to do it for Waubonsie. I thought deserved a pretty big shout-out there.
yeah, and a couple notable performances that I wanted to mention. Aiden Terranez over there at Sherrard going to UIC. He threw 6 innings last week, struck out 13, allowed 1 run, 2 walks, and 2 hits. In that game, he recorded his 250th career strikeout. And then he also went 4 for 8 with 5 walks, a double, 6 RBIs, 2 runs, and then a 2-run homer on the week as well. So good stuff from Aiden Terranez. Congrats to him for 250 career strikeouts. And then Nasir Fairs from Belleville East, he's 2026, went 11 for 17 with 2 doubles, 11 RBIs, 3 runs scored, a stolen base, a 2-run homer, and then he also threw 3 innings, struck out 3, walked 2, and allowed 2 hits. But go ahead, guys, if there's anything else you want to touch on, or we can keep moving on?
Well, there's a ton of good performances. I mean, Brady Cunningham, who won Player of the Week, he's one of the top two-way sophomores in the state. I see Jackson Tucker on here. He's one of the top sophomores in the state. Went 5 for 14 with 2 doubles, 2 walks, 2 triples, 3 stolen bases, 5 runs. And then you've got a guy like Ethan Moore. He was a Super 60 participant for us. He's at OPRF. He's a senior committed to Tennessee. Starting to really heat up. He went 7 for 17 with 6 extra base hits, including 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, 8 runs scored. He kind of just did a little bit of everything looking at him. And he's one of the top seniors in the state. You got Brady Green there as well, going 7 for 17 at OPRF. I think they're just starting to play a little bit better baseball as well. And then you had a bunch of guys from Father McGivney. Alton also mentioned. Just kind of speaks to how offensive Father McGivney has been. You got 2026 infielder Scott Phelps, who went 7 for 12 with 10 RBIs and 3 doubles. You got Mason Holmes. He's a 25 going to Hendrix College. He went 9 for 14 with a double, 6 RBIs, 3 walks, 5 runs. He also went 4 innings pitched and gave up 3 hits, 2 runs. So Nolan Parker at Alton went 6 for 10. He's an unsigned senior. He had a walk, a double, 3 runs. Just really good stuff all over the place, but a couple more call outs there.
Yeah, and then I had a few. Excuse me. We touched a little bit on it earlier, but Gavin Triesenberg, just want to mention his week. He was 9 for 17, had a walk, 4 doubles, a home run, which I saw, 8 RBIs, 9 runs scored, and 5 stolen bases. Another thing that unfortunately doesn't find its way on the stat sheet is I'm sure he probably made every single play defensively. That's how good he is. But another 2 names, Carver Cohn. Now I know we touched on him last week because I saw them play Huntley, and he performed really well there. But turns out he had 2 grand slams last week, which is kind of ridiculous. I saw one of them. But he was 4 for 13, had 3 walks, 2 grand slams, and 8 RBIs. So he bats at the top of that lineup for McHenry. They're now up to number 3 in the state, and they need him to keep performing for sure. And then this one really fired me up because he was actually my prospect of the week a couple weeks ago. But Mickey Lotus having a big week for St. Lawrence. 6 for 8, 3 walks, a double, 4 RBIs, 3 runs scored, and 5 stolen bases. So that one really fired me up. I really like his game, so to see him getting the results on the stat sheet's really cool.
One thing really quick, just you mentioned Carver Cohn. I keep checking McHenry's, lineups. They tweet them out before the game, and I think I shot it over yesterday. Like, they're 3rd in the state, right, in our Power 25, and they've got, at the top of their order, they go freshman, sophomore, in their last couple games, with Landon Clements hitting in the 2-hole and Caden Wozniewski hitting in the 3-hole. And I feel like Brother Rice is very similar. They've got a few more seniors mixed in with like a Jackson Natanic and a Gavin Triesenberg and Aiden O'Hava and stuff like that. But you mix in a Brady Cunningham, a Colin Campbell, Gavin Stanislawski, like 2 of the top teams in the state are being impacted at a high level by some young guys, which is always, to me, just like curious to see, because then you mention a Oswego, or you mention, like a Friend, like they're kind of loaded with seniors. York, loaded with seniors. So like there's a lot of different ways to succeed and have good years. To me, I just find that really intriguing that some of these schools, are being impacted, and some of the best schools in the state, by young guys that are up and coming.
Yeah, so turning this over now to game coverage, I will kick things off, I guess, with my game that I went to. And we're going to do this a little bit differently again, where I think we're going to try and, I guess, separate it in different categories by what we liked about the game and things like that. So we're just going to see how this goes for today, I guess, see if we like the new process. But again, after games, we're always posting the Scout blog, the daily roundup. We're doing a game recap, and obviously the in-game coverage. So we'll have a lot of game content, I guess, that you guys can kind of follow along with. So we're trying to do this a little bit differently, so we're not like, I guess, regurgitating the same stuff. But looking at my East Peoria game, they played Canton. East Peoria walked it off. They won 3-2. But my MVP of the game was Cash Van Houten. 6 innings pitched for Canton, although they did lose. They did lose, but still, he was the MVP of the game, in my opinion. 6 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 run allowed, and 2 hits. His fastball was 88 to 91 in that game, was up to 92. Threw a slider at 74 to 79. Swing and miss, and then his changeup was 82 miles an hour. At the plate, he just looks like a guy still. Right-handed hitter. Love the actions, love the movement patterns. He just, you can tell when some guys walk in the box, you can tell, they know, I'm a guy. And he just walks in there, with uber amounts of confidence, but, not in a cocky way, but you can just tell, he's got it. You know what I mean? You can just tell. And he performed. He had a double in the game. I think he drove in a run maybe as well. I can't remember exactly, but good stuff from Cash. He's one of the top 2027s in the class. So yeah. And then looking at some underclassmen from that game, Canton has quite a few in their lineup. They had their leadoff hitter was a center fielder, Bo Hoops, who's a 2027. First baseman Asher Blessman was a 2028. Right fielder Dane Grazinich is a 2028, and then their catcher Caleb Jockums was a 2028 as well. So a lot of young guys in the class. But go ahead, Drew.
I hope Bo Hoops plays some basketball. What a name if he's a basketball player. I'm gonna have to look that up. But no, I'm curious. You got a big moment here listed below that I want to turn it back over to you for.
Yeah. So I had a tough time with this. I think I'm gonna go with the big play first, just because it makes sense in order of the game. So in the bottom of the 7th inning, tied 2-2. East Peoria is the home team. They're up to bat. Center fielder Joe Clark comes to the plate. He delivers a single up the middle with a guy on second. East Peoria's coach sent the runner home, but he was thrown out at the plate with 2 outs, and Bo Hoops, the Canton center fielder, was the guy that threw him out. It was a dot, right on the money, saved them, allowed them to go into extra innings. But looking over at the game's big moment, bottom of the 8th, Owen Hidden reached base on a single for East Peoria. R.J. Duncan nearly homered off the left field wall, but he doubled, and it put runners on second and third, the game was tied at 2-2 still. 2 batters later, their left fielder, Roman Moody, delivered an RBI single to walk it off for the Raiders, and then they ended up winning that Middle Illini Conference game. So big game there for East Peoria, pulling off the extra inning game. So yeah, that's my East Peoria versus Canton game. But yeah, go ahead. Feel free if you guys got anything else.
Well, I love it. Bo Hoops making a big time play, center fielder, and he's a sophomore. Living up to that moment, throwing a guy out, and you said the throw was perfect. And it sounds like you got to see a great game, which is always with some high level prospects. Which is always the goal.
The Dane Grazinich kid, he's a freshman as well. He's playing right field. He showed off an arm in and out too, so I thought that was pretty impressive. I think he probably will be an arm to see, is what I'm hearing. So just the arm action too in the outfield, it looked pretty good. And then Asher Blessman, he's a big boy, big left-handed hitter, but in a good way, very physical for a freshman. And I'm not saying he is Brody Landgraf by any means, but he gives off that Brody Landgraf vibe, just first baseman, left-handed hitter, that size, kind of that physical frame. So just a guy to keep an eye on as well.
Well, I can hop in here. Last Monday, I actually got to see the second game of the 2-game set between Huntley and McHenry. I saw game 1 the prior week at Huntley's place. This one was at McHenry, and McHenry won 9-4. For me, right off the gate, MVP was catcher AJ Chavera. He is a 2025 from McHenry who's going to Rock Valley after this year, and he's 2 for 3 with an RBI, but he was all over the barrel in this game. Every single time he came up to the plate, it was hard. Hit something hard, all over the field. So he's been kind of known for his defense. I think last year in their playoff run, he really kind of took over the starting job behind the plate because he was just making play after play behind the dish. So to see him, swinging it like that, I know McHenry, their offense is still coming around, but if they can keep getting production out of him, I think it only lengthens their lineup. I know Drew was touching on what they have cooking at the top of the lineup, but moving over, underclassmen that stood out from this game for me, Carver Cone continues to just look the part on both sides of the ball. It's not like he really lit it up offensively in this one, but like he finds a way to get on base every time I see him. Works counts. I actually finally got to see him hit from the right side in this one, and it's crazy because I feel like there's not a drop off between the left-handed swing and the right-handed swing. Looks very similar to me, which I feel like is really hard to do. But credit to him. Owen Borkowski is a 2027 from Huntley. Really brief look at Owen. His older brother is Drew Borkowski, a 2026 from Huntley, but man, really high on Owen after this one. Came out of the pen, was 83 to 85. He's got a really quick arm, just like his brother, but his brother's a little bit more filled out, obviously being a year older. But man, I think there's a lot to be excited about with Owen moving forward. And then for me, turning point in this game, bases loaded in the bottom of the fourth. There was one out. It was tied 2-2. Jeffrey Schwab, who I actually talked about last week, who was a standout in their first game, came up, laced a 2 RBI single into left field, gave McHenry the 4-2 lead at the time, and really they didn't look back from there. They had a couple big contributions off the bench. Will Richter and Bennett Bellman came off the bench and each had RBI extra base hits, so that really just kind of gave the Warriors a big cushion going into the final frame. I think it was 9-2. Yeah, 9-2 going into that final frame, and then Huntley got a couple runs there at the end. But last section here for me, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about him, but the prospect to know from this one was Brandon Shannon. Hammond touched on him. He was the pitcher of the week coming into that game, and it was probably one of his least dominant outing. Like, he has been on a tear all spring. He still had a good outing. By no means was it bad. Quick arm, right? He's a 2025 from McHenry going to Louisville. Draft arm to know, but it was 91 to 94 with the fastball, touching 95. I thought what was impressive was he was in that velo range the entire game, and then was also showing a 77 to 79 mile an hour breaking ball and an 87 to 88 mile an hour split. So still very high on Brandon. We'll have to get out and see him again later this spring, but thought he threw the ball well. I think what was most impressive was just his composure on the mound. Like, his first couple innings, he had to deal with some traffic on the bases, and didn't seem to faze him at all. He made some big-time pitches and just kind of let his defense work in this one. But, yeah, that's what I got. Hammond, I could throw it over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I saw Barrington and Schaumburg on Wednesday. Barrington took that one 3-1. I'll start with my MVP. My MVP was freshman Jack Postma. He's every bit of 6'6". Like, the kid's still growing. I mean, he's got major league bloodlines. I guess great grandpa played in the MLB. He was like 6'7". Like, he's got a tall dad, tall grandpa. So I mean, the kid's not done growing. There's a lot to like there. But 5 innings, just 1 hit, didn't allow any runs, struck out 5. Super elastic mover. Like, if you watch the video, like, really good extension. Like, he's gonna throw really hard. I mean, he throws hard right now. He's up to 87, working in the mid 80s. But the kid is really, really interesting. He's gonna be really, really good as well. But he was also showing a low 80s changeup and a low 70s curveball. But yeah, I just really like the way it moves, and being around the zone like that big, and how well he moves. Like, that's just, you don't see kids that age, that size, that move like that. So he'll be one to watch for sure moving forward. But the turning point for this one was kind of, just Barrington's offense. Like, they got out to an early 1-0 lead. Tommy Abetamarco, sorry about that, Tommy, uncommitted junior. He singled and later scored on a fielder's choice. And then Julie Ashley Friedman, a Navy commit, he had an RBI the following inning. And then Peter Ensign would add the final RBI. Just a couple guys that I liked from the game. I really liked the Barrington shortstop, Jackson Roberts. He's a sophomore. He was looking to attack early in the count, was hitting lead off, fluid swing with upside, easy hands. He could cover the plate, he could take it the other way. He was a really good defender as well, so he'll be a guy that we need to keep watching. And then here we go, back to Tommy Abetamarco. Like I said, uncommitted junior, really toolsy, was in left field, showed good reads off the bat, strong arm. And then there's a ton of bat speed at the plate. He's kind of like a middle-of-the-order profile, personally, is what I would think. Just like the power and the the bat speed he can create. But and then Julie Ashley Friedman, I really liked his swing and his at bats he was taking, and he's a good defender over at third. He's going to Navy. And then for Schaumburg, Garrick Gallardon, he got the start and the loss, but I mean he threw it really well for them. He went 7 innings. He scattered 6 hits, but he gave up only 2 earned runs, walked 1, and struck out 3. So really good outing for him.
I saw Waltonville versus St. Anthony on that Monday. Brandon Minster started on the mound for Waltonville and just shoved 12 strikeouts through 6 innings. Cincinnati commit. He only allowed 1 run or hit, sorry. Had a fastball set 89, 91. Got a lot of swings and misses at the top of the zone. Mixed in a curveball that sat 72, 74 with sharp late action, 11-5 shape. And utilized the curveball as an out pitch. Looked very, very competent competitor on the mound. Maintained velo deep into his pitch count as well. Turning point of this game, Reed Robinson drove in the game's first run on a bases-loaded hit by pitch in the top of the second. Robinson would also drive in the second run on an error by the catcher in the top of the fourth. Witten DeVore followed up with a sac fly into center field. Menser would also help his case by driving in the final run of the inning with a ground out to the pitcher that would bring the runner in. Waltonville ended up winning 4-0. But another guy that I think we should highlight is Alex Mayer. He came out of the pen, shut out 2 and 2/3 innings, picked up 3 strikeouts, only allowed 1 hit, no walks. Sat 77, 79, topped out at 80 with arms time to run, mixed in a mid-60s curveball that had 11-5 shape. Just really looked easy, and 2027, he's a guy that we're going to have to keep an eye on for sure.
And then, Saturday I saw the Battle of the Downers Groves in my backyard. North actually won that one 10-4. The turning point in this one, the game was tied at 4 in the 4th inning, and then Trojans put on 3 runs to make it 7-4 at the time. Brady Schalmoser, who's going to end up being my MVP of the game, he had an RBI single. JD Sumby had a sac fly to bring in another one. And then they would add another run in the 5th with an RBI from Schalmoser again. And he scored Emilio Gandaria, who led off the frame with a double. And then the Trojans would conclude their scoring in the bottom of the 6th to make it 10-4. Luke Fordonsky added an RBI single, and Sumby scored in a pass ball. So that was kind of the turning point in that one. It was back and forth for a little bit. And like I said, Brady Schalmoser is my MVP. He went 2 for 4. He had 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored. And I mean, man, I love his at-bats and just the way he handles himself at the plate. He was a pro case guy for us. I mean, the left-handed bat it's one of the best bats in the state. Just the polish and the barrel control and just his pure hitter, he's just a pure hitter, right? And as he continues to get stronger throughout the years, I mean, and packs on the power, he's going to be really, really dangerous at the next level. Colin Doyle, another one that stood out. He came out and closed it. He's every bit of 6'6", probably still growing as well. Right-hander, he was 84 to 87, filling up the zone, going right after guys. Big fan of him. I mean, that kid's ceiling is super, super high. If you watch the video, super easy, silky mover. Like, there's a ton more there. And then for DGS, James Subkoyak, he was a junior future gamer for us as well. 84 to 85 in the 1st inning. Really sharp curveball, and he also showed a changeup for strikes. He's a really good mover with a quick arm. He's going to be really good. I mean, his dad was a former pitching coach, former big leaguer. Like, there's a lot of things going right there. And then for going back to North, Edgar Santos, he had a really good day. He was 3 for 4. Simple and strong. He's going to Parkland. We've seen it really good in the past as well. Good defender. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Emilio Gandaria, he's a good little shortstop for him. He had a double. He was thinking 2 out of the box, like a hustle double. And Coach Briscoe was kind of tipping me off about him. Like, they weren't expecting him to be as much of a contributor as he's been, so he's been a nice surprise for them. And he's having a great year.
The videos that you put out just throughout that entire game were super interesting, Pete. Like, that Colin Doyle video is really impressive, along with Subkoyak. Like, just looks like it has the chance to be a dynamic arm. And then the one thing with Gandaria, like, he's got a lot of rhythm going on in the box, which I always love to see. Like, really, really fluid.
Good glove, too.
Like to hear that. I was like, a left-handed hitting middle guy will always get my attention.
Yeah, and Dane, I guess I know we're kind of back and forth between dates and days of the week from last week, but Dane, I know on Tuesday you were down at O'Fallon and Alton. So what do you got from that game?
A really fun game. O'Fallon versus Alton. O'Fallon ended up winning 8-5. My MVP, his name gives him a little extra points, but it was Dane Haraski, Central Missouri commit. He showed well in all aspects of the game, especially his speed. His speed allows him to take a base hit and turn it into extra bases. Very smooth actions at short. He went 2 for 4 at the plate. Just was a game changer for them. And leading into that, the turning point was his triple and the bottom of the sixth, where he led off with a triple in the left center gap. Carson Bauer, 2026, would follow up with an RBI double into left field. On the next pitch, first baseman Connor Blue, Cincinnati commit, drove Bauer in with an RBI single into left. And then once again, Camden Cox hit Legoland commit come up and drive Blue in with a single. Those 3 runs would make a huge impact on the game and end up being the winning runs for them. A couple guys that I would like to highlight as well is Sam McCollum out of O'Fallon. 2026 came out of the pen. Simple movement, compact, quick arm. Fastball sat 84-87 with arm time run. Mixed in a mid-70s slider with sharp action, 10-4 shape. Looked really good, really confident on the mound. Picked up 3 strikeouts in 2 innings of work. And then another guy, Asher Cantu, his catcher for O'Fallon, 2026 guy as well. He went 2 for 4. Really easy pull-aside power. Laced a double into the right center gap. Just showed really well at the plate.
Yeah, or go
That's
ahead,
a guy
Joe.
that just continues to
Yeah.
trend up for me, Gav. I don't know if you were going to say the same thing.
No, I was just gonna say when I went and saw them earlier at the Kickoff Classic, the same guys I saw. That's exactly what I would have talked about just from what I saw. So it's cool to see that they're still performing, and you saw them do well as well. But
Yep. No, and Asher, I thought, took huge steps in the winter when we saw him. But what's most important is how it carries over to the game, and that's really where it seems like he's been taken off. Just raking in game, and his measurables have improved behind the plate, and he's just a massive human being as well, in a good way, like long and strong, and really fills out the uniform. So, you got some good looks there, Dane. That's good stuff.
yeah, and then how about your game on Wednesday? Father McGivney versus Mount Vernon. Father McGivney obviously now ranked number 12 in the state with this week's update. But what do you got on that game?
Just saw another deep Southern Illinois lineup in Father McGivney. They ended up winning 15-3 against Mount Vernon. The MVP of that game was SIUE commit Cannon Camp, who was playing second base that day. He finished 3 for 3 while driving in 3 runs. Just showed very smooth operations at second base. Really impactful, great bat to ball abilities, and he was able to get contact in all parts of the zone. I thought that was very, very big time. Turning point was Ben Sink opening the floodgates in the bottom of the first when he shot a 2-run double into the right center gap. Scott Phelps, as talked about earlier, would score Sink on a RBI single into right, and then Riley Sutberry would follow up with a double pass to left fielder for an RBI double. I just talked about those 3 guys. Those 3 guys were at the bottom of that lineup, and they made a huge impact. So that just should tell you how deep this lineup is. So that's awesome. A couple guys I like to talk about. Omar Avalos. I know we like him here at Prep Baseball, but he finished the day going 1 for 3 with a launch pad of a home run over center field wall. Really, really impactful swing. Gap to gap approach, easy power. Great arm out of right field, and he showed good speed. I know we have him at 6.9260 at a showcase beforehand, but he looked really good. For Mount Vernon, Riker Perigo finished the day going 1 for 3 while driving in a run. This is a 2027 to keep an eye on. I think that he was just I really liked how he was looking. Quality bat to ball abilities with the compact swing, flat path with a whole field approach. Another guy, smooth operator at short with an arm to match. Very interesting guy to keep an eye on for Mount Vernon.
Yeah, well, I know are big fans of Father McGivney, obviously, but now being ranked number 12. But good stuff, Dane. Appreciate you getting on and getting on the podcast for your first time.
Dane, outstanding stuff. First time jumping on. I love hearing it. Looking forward to having a lot more of you.
Thank you. It was a good time.
Yeah, so moving on to prospect of the week now, guys. I'll just get into my guy first here. From that East Peoria Canton game, it is shortstop Jackson Aarons, from East Peoria 2026. He's just an athlete. He led off for the Raiders. I love the frame. It's kind of like, it's athletic, but it's kind of wiry. He's still got plenty of room to add strength still. At shortstop during in and out, I kind of went towards the outfield and was just watching in and out this week. I just kind of tried to change up the spot that I watched this week, and I was getting an eye at Aaron's, and he just has actions up the middle. Really like the way he moves. You can tell he's just an athlete. The arm, I think the strength is maybe a little bit behind, but it's accurate across, which is honestly the most important thing at this time. But he is an uncommitted junior, obviously. Really communicated a lot in IO too. That was kind of one thing I liked about going to where I was at, watching in and out, just being able to hear them talk and kind of be closer to the field. But yeah, he was communicating a lot with the team, just kind of telling them kind of like the on-field general, I guess. But another thing to note about Jackson, was second team all-conference for East Peoria's basketball team. I think he averaged around 17 points, if I remember right, per game in a good basketball conference too, in the middle Illini. But no, he's a right-handed hitter, like the movement patterns at the plate, kind of a direct pass, a little bit uphill, but good stuff there from shortstop Jackson Aarons. He is uncommitted 2026 from East Peoria.
I'll hop in here. I'm going to go with Jack Bodak. So he's someone that I actually saw yesterday, and we're going to keep it organized like the weekly games. I won't talk about my game yesterday till next podcast just to kind of keep it organized. But Jack Bodak got the start for York. He's a left-hander, uncommitted still to my knowledge, but he was low 80s with a good little slider. He could pitch. Like, he was keeping him off balance. He was filling up the zone. He was working quick. I like the tempo on the mound. Like, got the ball, was going right after guys. He's a college arm all day. Definitely talented enough to play in college. So I feel like I needed to shout him out. Someone can hopefully get on him. Still a senior, uncommitted.
And I have a guy that kind of showed up in our daily roundup, but we've seen him in the past. He was at the Illinois State games. Wanted to highlight him, but 2026 right-handed pitcher Parker Fitch, St. Joseph Ogden. We've had his fastball up to 87, but we mentioned how he helped extend St. Joe Ogden to a 9-game winning streak with a 16-4 win over Normal U-High, and he struck out 11 in 5 innings pitched. I just think he's a 2026 with a lot of upside. He's listed at 6'3", 200 pounds. So it's somewhat of like a workhorse frame, and I think there's still a long way to go with him. But just one guy I wanted to highlight. Yeah,
well, that will wrap up episode 24 of the Bullpen. As always, we appreciate you guys listening and watching, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple. But with that being said, just be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. Like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube. All things like that help us out. But appreciate you listening, and we will see you next week.